And thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. What a powerful service we had yesterday at Shrewsbury Assembly. If you happen to miss it, whatever platform you're watching this, I want to encourage you to go back and watch the service. Pastor Denny Sproul finished our series called Planted and talking about a bountiful harvest and what it means to live a fruitful life. We've been talking about planted in this whole series last month and a half, talking about spiritual growth. How can we be planted in faith and rooted on purpose? And hopefully you have been encouraged, challenged, resourced now of how you can live a life that is pleasing of God and not of this world. And I can understand that this is a battle and hey, we're not perfect, but I'm so thankful that we have a helper. I'm so thankful that we have a guide. I'm so thankful that we have the Holy Spirit to empower us. I want to highlight Galatians chapter 5. As we're talking about spiritual growth and, really the focus, as we've been praying and discussing as a leadership team, this summer, it's beautiful out now. It's beginning of June. What do you want to accomplish this summer? And that's something I want you to think about, even throughout the week. What do you want to do this summer? A lot of times, we plan, we strategize for trips, for vacations, right? But what about our spiritual growth? Do you have a plan for your spiritual growth? Do you have a strategy? Think about that and go to the Lord and say, you know what, Lord, here are some goals that I want to accomplish as I'm growing spiritually to Him. So, Galatians chapter 5, starting in verse 16, it says this: So I say, let the Holy Spirit guide your lives. Then you won't be doing what your sinful nature craves. And that is so key right there, because here's the thing: we will always have that sin nature here on this side of eternity, here on this earth. But you know what? We can have the Holy Spirit guide us, and that's why, we talked about, yesterday, even the byproduct of us growing in our relationship with God is that people will see the fruit of the Spirit, that love and joy and peace and patience and kindness. Actually, what we're going to be discussing over the next 2 weeks here on the daily doses here. But we need to have the empowerment and the guidance of the Holy Spirit, not relying on our own strength or our own intellect. Verse 17, the sinful nature wants to do evil, which is just the opposite of what the Spirit wants. And the Spirit gives us desires that are the opposite of what the sinful nature desires. These two forces are consistently fighting each other. So you are not free to carry out your good intentions. And that is so key right there, because a lot of times we can live our life off of good intentions. I just mentioned before I was reading this about goals and about, your spiritual growth, right? We have a plan, a strategy? Do you have good intentions for this summer? Well, it's not going to cut it if you just have good intentions. We have to follow through. We have to execute some of those plans that we have and put them into motion. Verse 18, but when you are directed by the Spirit, you are not under the obligation to the law of Moses, which I'm so thankful for, which means, like, right here, a lot of times what he's referring to, what Paul is saying is that, like, hey, we have to abide by a certain law, and we have to do certain things in order to gain righteousness. And I discussed this not this past Sunday, the Sunday before, about being connected to the vine. John chapter 15. I want to encourage you to reread that again. How can we allow the Holy Spirit to guide us? Well, we need to allow Him to. That's the biggest thing, and not get in front of Him. And so today, as you're reading this, I want you to reread it again. Find a place, find a space where you can reread Galatians chapter 5, 16 through 18, and just allow the Holy Spirit to guide you. Allow that to be your prayer as you go to Him with your plans and strategies for this summer. You say, God, this is what I have in motion. This is what I have planned. But God, I want to please and honor you, because when you are allowing the Holy Spirit to guide you, the Spirit is going to give you His desires, and they're going to be opposing of the worldly desires. And so if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're sick and tired of having a cycle of trying to do good and messing up and trying to do good and messing up, just allow the Holy Spirit to guide you. take some time today and get his empowerment today. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I should tune tomorrow for the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth.